2, 3, let's go.
Wednesday afternoon.
I think, well, where do I go with that? You know, what on earth am I going to write about? Even though you can actually write about anything. Well, that's not the way I do it. It doesn't work for me like that. Now, whether that translates into football, I don't know. But if you can actually buy pretty much whoever you want, within limits, I guess. But if you can, then you've got all the other elements. You know, you won't get everybody at the club agreeing that you want that particular person. Some will say, excuse me, he will say it's brilliant. Some will say, oh, I'm not so sure. It's too wide. Whereas if someone knows, well, we've got to stick with maybe players who've got Premiership experience, Premier League experience, or players they have to be European. We don't want it to be from South America or America. Then maybe it's better to be limited, because you're going to get the best of a smaller area of choice. So I don't know, that may or may not make any difference, but on the analogy I gave, I think sometimes it's much better to have a narrower tunnel of vision and really exploit that, than having this great worldwide vision and you don't quite know where to start. That's how I would see that.
Because look at the success of Leicester City in 2015. It was
2016.
Is it 2016? Sorry. Where they then went ahead and won the title, Premier League title. They didn't have much to experiment with. They just had what they had, and they put what they had to good use. And it was a formidable force, because no team could actually give them any real competition, because they were that focused. They knew what they were doing. They worked as a unit. You know what I mean? Maybe if they had money to buy more players, experiment, if they had unlimited resources in their hands or at their disposal, maybe it wouldn't have worked out that well. Who knows?
Because they didn't have that. I mean, the owners were very rich, but they didn't have the resources that, say, a Saudi owned club like Newcastle would have. So they didn't have great big international names, footballers, but something just gelled together. It's the perfect storm of achievement, really, with their manager. I think it was Claudio Ranieri, wasn't it? Something like that. Although, ironically, they sacked him during the next season when he wasn't doing so well, which struck me as a bit harsh. But no, I mean, if you remember as well, Jamie Vardy, very good footballer then and now, I guess, although he's got a bit older. But I think he broke a record, didn't he? Because he scored a goal in, was it 12 or 13 consecutive games, which broke some Premier League records, but he couldn't stop scoring. And the teams, home or away, they were just winning all the games. So it was a phenomenal thing. But as you say, they weren't looking around the world or even across Europe, who can we buy? They had obviously gelled this team together. It worked, and at that moment in time, with that management, with those owners, etc., they did the impossible, really. And because they were given odds, I think the odds were, it was 5,000 to 1 at the beginning of that season. So some of their supporters put £10 on, and they got £50,000 when they won. And of course, ever since then, the bookies, they don't do more than a few hundred to 1, because most teams will never win it, but they won't ever give you 5,000 to 1 against. But of course, the sad sequel to that achievement by Leicester was a couple of years, I'm not sure how long ago now, but 5 or 6 years ago, the helicopter crash. The owner, he was always picked up. The helicopter would land on the pitch at their ground, the King Stadium, isn't it? And it's on, you can see it, I think, probably not on YouTube now, but he landed there. And then the owner and his secretary and another member of his staff went on the helicopter with the couple. They were lived together couple, both were pilots. And they went up off the pitch, and of course, I think it was something to do with the tail rotor came off.
Soft family and the ladies, Dr. Gladys and Phantom. and Rose. We all have a lovely show every weekday, so join us for a lovely show.
Say hello to Phantom Doctor.
They were lived together couple, both were pilots.
Yeah.
And they went up off the pitch, and of course, I think it was something to do with the tail rotor came off or didn't work properly, and then they crashed down outside the stadium. And then what a sad sequel to the achievement of that owner.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe there's a memorial to them now, but it's not relevant to the football as such, but relevant to that story that those poor people in that helicopter didn't have a chance.
No.
And so all the money in the world made no difference.
No. No.
Anyway, that's a sad extra bit, but all credit to Leicester.
Yeah.
As I say, ironically, they sacked Claudio Ranieri, the following season, which seemed a bit tough. You think he'd have had a bit of money in the bank to guarantee him a job for at least a couple of years, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah. I was reading something on the internet. I can't remember what site it was now. And they were talking about when was the last time when was the last time in the Premier League that we've had 4 teams go 9 games without winning?
Well, 8 games.
Was it 8 games? Yeah.
And thanks for bringing this up, knowing that Crystal Palace is one of those things. You hit below the belt, bro, don't you? Because I'm getting your name wrong now.
Did I?
But you're right. It's the first time that's happened. Yeah. So, what is really happening at Palace? What's really happening there? It's a good question, and it is a very good question, because Oliver Glasner, the manager, came to Palace. Well, it must be towards a year ago, maybe a bit less, but he took him a while, 3 or 4 games before he got the team playing. It's not a year ago, it's not as much as that, but anyway, the last 7 games Palace of the season last season, they won 6 and drew 1. It was phenomenal. It was incredible, really. It was like they were doing like a bit of a Leicester, quite seriously. It's like they couldn't lose. They went up to Manchester United, to your team, and won up there. And matches that it was not considered likely in the past that they would win, they did. Yeah. And actually, before this season started, a lot of the pundits had Palace for being up there pretty much in the European places this season. Wow. But something has gone badly wrong. I mean, one thing they couldn't do much about was probably sold the best player, Michael Elise, a Frenchman, because he had a release clause in his contract, so that if a bigger club came in, they would have to listen to the offer. I mean, I was surprised that release clause was £50 million, because in today's market, I would have put him probably about £80 million. And he went to Bayern Munich. He plays along with Harry Kane, etc. And I gather he's having a very good season. He was a very good footballer, but not just as a footballer, but he was a winger, really. He was providing a lot of the crosses, which Mateta, who suddenly became a goal scorer in those last few games, a very prolific goal scorer. And of course, Elise also got on very well with Ebery Eze. And together they were a real force, because I think both of them took like 2 or 3 of the opposite team when they got the ball, so he was giving more space to others. So he went. He had to go because the club had no choice. Sadly, they also sold Joachim Andersen, who was he was a very good defender along with Mark Gay. They had a very good partnership, and also Andersen had very good leadership qualities. Much of the time, he was.
And the ladies, Dr. Gladys and Phantom and Rose. We all have a lovely show every weekday, so join us for a lovely show.
Say hello to Phantom.